No bombs, no bullets, just pressure. Sanctions, the modern weapon of war. They freeze assets, cripple economies, and isolate nations. But can they really change the world? Imagine waking up one morning to find that nearly every aspect of your country's economy is under siege from the world. For Russia, this is reality. As of 2025, Russia stands as the most sanctioned country on Earth, with more than 20,000 individual and entity sanctions in effect, a number far exceeding any other nation, including Iran, Syria, or North Korea. To give you some perspective, here's a quick snapshot of the most sanctioned countries today. Russia tops the list, with more than 20,000 sanctions primarily linked to the ongoing Ukraine war. Next is Iran, facing roughly 5,000 sanctions. Its nuclear program and alleged support for terrorism have long drawn international condemnation. Syria comes in with around 3,000 sanctions, a result of civil war and the use of chemical weapons during Bashar al-Assad's regime. North Korea faces approximately 2,000 sanctions due to its persistent nuclear and missile programs. Belarus has around 1,500 sanctions imposed for alleged election rigging and supporting Russia. And Myanmar rounds out the list with roughly 1,000 sanctions following its military coup and widespread human rights abuses. The roots of Russia's record-breaking sanction regime trace back to February 2022, when it launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. But it didn't start there. Over the years, actions such as the annexation of Crimea in 2014, interference in foreign elections, cyber attacks, and alleged human rights abuses have all contributed to the growing list of restrictions imposed by the United States, European Union, UK, Canada, Japan, and Australia. You might be wondering, what does this mean for Russia and the world? The answer lies in the vast scope of sanctions. They cut across trade, finance, energy, defense, travel, and countless other sectors. Sanctions are essentially tools of pressure. They are measures imposed by countries or international bodies to encourage a state, organization, or individual to change behavior without firing a single bullet. Several measures can be taken against the sanctioned country, like economic, trade restrictions, asset freezes, tariffs, and embargoes. Diplomatic, limiting or severing official government relations. Military, arms embargoes or bans on military financing. Travel and visa, restricting the movement of officials or elites. Environmental or sport, participation bans in international events. Sanctions work by isolating the target from global markets, freezing assets, and cutting off access to critical technology. Compliance is enforced through laws, and violations can lead to fines or imprisonment. The effectiveness depends on global participation and the ability of the sanctioned entity to circumvent restrictions. Russia's sanctions are unprecedented in scale and scope. Financially, over $350 billion of Russian central bank assets are frozen abroad. Major banks are blocked from the SWIFT system, and restrictions on sovereign debt trading have crippled international financial flows. On the sectoral front, technology exports, advanced semiconductors, and dual-use equipment for aviation, maritime, and military industries are banned. Energy sanctions limit Russian oil, gas, coal, and LPG exports, enforce an oil price cap, and restrict investment in Russian energy projects. Personal sanctions target high-ranking officials, oligarchs, and business elites, including President Vladimir Putin. Travel bans, asset freezes, and prohibitions on business dealings form a comprehensive blockade around Russia's leadership. Transport, logistics, and commerce have also been hit. EU airspace is closed to Russian aircraft, Russian freight is banned, and vessels manipulating navigation for oil shipments are restricted from ports. Even media and propaganda arms are targeted, with bans on Russian broadcasters to curb disinformation abroad. The consequences are staggering. Russia's economy shrank by 2.1% in 2022 following the invasion, before slowly regaining ground with modest growth projected at around 1% in 2024. Experts estimate that sanctions have slashed Russia's potential growth by 5%, leaving GDP 12 to 20% below what it could have been without the war. Inflation has soared, reaching double digits, and the central bank increased interest rates to 21% by early 2025. Consumer purchasing power has eroded, domestic demand is down, and skilled workers are emigrating in large numbers. More than 1 million Russians, as per reports, have left the country since 2022, many young and educated, further straining the workforce. The war economy absorbs tens of thousands of workers monthly into military production, reducing civilian industry capacity. Health and social spending have been cut, forcing the population to bear the burden of conflict while the military-industrial complex expands. Sanctions have directly affected Russia's military procurement. Access to advanced microelectronics, optical systems, engines, and semiconductors is blocked, forcing reliance on outdated Soviet-era platforms and lower-quality substitutes from allied countries. The production of high-tech weapons, including the Su-57 stealth fighter, has stalled. Operational priorities have shifted to repair and procure drones, tanks, and armored vehicles, critical in Ukraine, but limiting long-term strategic capability.
Sanctions are gradually eroding the ability of Russia to modernize its armed forces, making it increasingly difficult to sustain high-tech military operations.
Innovation stagnates as research and development are curtailed, and reliance on countries like China, Turkey, and Kazakhstan grows. While stockpiles and illicit supply chains provide temporary relief, they cannot fully replace the lost capabilities. Despite severe restrictions, Russia has developed creative evasion strategies. Its shadow fleet of aging oil tankers covertly transports crude beyond Western oversight, representing around 17% of global oil transport. Russia uses intermediary countries to route imports and exports, complex legal structures to hide ownership, and alternative financial systems like the SPFS and NSPK to bypass SWIFT restrictions. Misdeclaration of customs documents and professional facilitators help procure restricted goods.
Russia's ability to adapt to sanctions shows resilience, but these measures are costly, inefficient, and risky, and they cannot fully restore the pre-sanctions economy.
Despite these challenges, Russia has found ways to maintain economic function. Trade with China and non-Western states has surged, using rubles and yuan for transactions. Technology imports continue through alternative channels, and energy exports remain substantial, albeit via complex shadow networks. Yet, the costs are high. Long-term growth potential remains suppressed, financial constraints persist, and social stability is under strain. Military modernization lags, and dependency on non-Western partners increases strategic vulnerability. So, what does this mean for you as a viewer? Russia's experience illustrates the power and limits of sanctions in global politics. They can reshape economies, isolate leaders, and curb military ambitions without war, but they also trigger adaptation and alternative alliances, creating a new, more fragmented world order.
There is no simple light at the end of the tunnel for Russia. The country will continue to adapt, but long-term constraints on growth, military power, and social stability remain.
The story of Russia's sanctions is still unfolding. How will global alliances evolve? Can sanctions continue to limit Russia without creating a parallel non-Western economic sphere? These are the questions that will define international affairs for years to come.